Basically, in some offshore countries, like Belize and BVI, capital to set up a Forex company is as important as the capital to set up an offshore bank license, which is quite impressive, actually.
Hello, René Philippe, and thank you for joining Dukascopy TV again. It's a pleasure to see you. Today, we're going to look at starting offshore companies for Forex traders, especially. And I understand there have been a lot of changes recently regarding offshore Forex companies, especially in terms of capitalization requirements. Is that correct?
It's correct, Jack. Actually, nearly all offshore jurisdictions have increased their capital requirement. But for Seychelles, which still have a $50,000 capital requirement, all the others have increased the condition. So, for example, in Belize, we are going from $100,000 paid up capital to $500,000. In BVI, from $500,000 to $1 million. Cayman from $17,500 to $100,000, and finally Vanuatu from $2,000 to $50,000. One thing that will be interesting is to see what will happen in Vanuatu, because until very recently it was a very popular destination to set up offshore Forex license. We will see whether the only attraction was the low capital or whether we will still have inquiry. One of the things is basically in some offshore countries, like Belize and BVI, capital to set up a Forex company is as important as the capital to set up an offshore bank license, which is quite impressive, actually.
So why are offshore jurisdictions still popular, especially with applicants for a Forex business?
Alors, there are actually several reasons why offshore jurisdiction remain popular. Alors, of course, taxation is one of them, because but for Seychelles, which is having a 1.5% taxation on gross income, other offshore jurisdictions do not have taxation. So if you compare with European jurisdiction, Bulgaria has 10% corporate income tax, Cyprus 12.5%, and Lithuania 15%. So yes, there is definitively a taxation attraction, but it's not the only reason. The second reason is if you want to be a market maker, in Europe you will need a capital of 730,000 euros. If you want to set up a market making Forex company offshore in Seychelles or Vanuatu, you will need only a $50,000 paid up capital. Now, another reason, and I think that it will be the more important now, is there have been a lot of regulatory change in Europe. European countries are basically clamping down on Forex business. And for example, you have now lower requirement for leveraging. So, for example, in Cyprus, it's 50:1 ratio. If you are a retail customer, if you are a professional customer, you can actually still play with a high leverage. In the UK, they are talking about having a leverage ratio of 25:1, so it's quite low. Also, for example, Belgium is considering to scrap down and to prohibit CFD trading and binary trading. Netherlands is considering to prohibit companies that are providing this kind of service, that is to say binary option CFDs, to advertise about them. So there is a current context that make offshore Forex business attractive. Finally, the last reason is also the personal requirement, education on the professional background are lower offshore. Now in some countries, it's become in some European countries like Malta and Bulgaria, it becomes incredibly difficult to set up a Forex company, because they have very strict criteria as to the background of the shareholder and the director.
Are operating costs also a big reason why traders would choose to go offshore?
Alors yes or not. There is one thing which sometimes put off investor in Europe is that you have this mandatory requirement of having a minimum number of employee, and you need to have some position to be filled, like compliance. You need an IT person for security purpose, if not to handle your servers. So you will need at least 4 or 5 employees in your company. But the fact is that if you set up your business in Cyprus or in Lithuania, where they still have a lower salary, you can run a Forex European company with a budget of 10 to 15,000 euro per month. Now, the thing is, offshore jurisdiction do not have those minimum mandatory requirement. But the point is that if you want to operate a Forex company, whether offshore or European, you will need an IT security guy. You will need a compliance guy to handle the KYC of your clients. You will need someone to do your marketing, because otherwise you will not have clients, and you will need traders. So operating an offshore company, a Forex company, whether offshore or in the European Union, will be basically as costly.
We talked about some of the benefits. What are some of the drawbacks of operating a Forex business offshore?
Alors, one of the main drawbacks by comparison, for example, to European license is you don't have passporting. Okay, with a European license, you can sell your service everywhere in Europe, and you can open shop everywhere in Europe. You cannot do this with an offshore company. Of course, you can take worldwide customer, but in general for US customer. But you cannot market in newspaper, or you cannot have people turning around, going to meet client in Europe with an offshore license. The second drawback will be it will be a little bit more difficult to open a bank account for offshore licensed company. No problem to open in the country of incorporation, but to go in Europe or this kind of things, it's a little bit more difficult. Also, in some case, liquidity provider or PSP provider, which are providing merchant account, may have actually conditions which are a little bit financially more expensive for offshore companies than for example, European Forex license company.
So we've talked through some of the pros and cons. Now, talk me through how we actually set up an offshore Forex trading company.
An offshore Forex company, it's a straightforward process. In terms of timelines, depending where you will set up your company, it will be between 2 months to 3-4 months. For example, 2 months in Vanuatu guarantee. Then, in terms of the process, it's basically everywhere a 6-step process. Firstly, you have to reserve the name, register the company. Of course, you will need customized article of association for trading for Forex or financial business. Then, depending of the jurisdiction, you will have to provide business plan, also anti-money laundering manual, and then preparing and filing the application and following through the process. So it's not very much complicated. And in terms of documents, a basic requirement will be a notarized passport, proof of address, and criminal record. After, depending of which offshore jurisdiction, you may have to provide curriculum vitae, you may have to provide bank reference letter. But basically, it's a straightforward process, and basically we have a good understanding of the process, so there is no difficulties there.
Fascinating stuff. René Philippe, thank you so much.
It was nice for inviting me again, Jack.
You're welcome. And thank you for watching. And if you like this and would like to find out more, be sure to head over to dukascopy.tv.